In the captivating realm of old Rome, weddings appeared quite unlike what we imagine now. Tying the knot wasn't truly about affection or sharing your days with a cherished partner. It was more akin to sealing a trade agreement or forging a strong pact between clans. Remarkably, it was entirely common, even anticipated, for Roman spouses to be disloyal. Extramarital liaisons weren't concealed or disgraceful as they could be today. Indeed, numerous men had fleeting encounters with ladies called courtesans or sustained paramours beyond wedlock. Yet, that's not everything. Roman males frequently had amorous or intimate bonds with other males, and this was viewed as a standard aspect of existence. To fully grasp how Romans perceived love and passion, we must shed modern notions about partnerships and adopt their perspective, where wedlock, authority, and enjoyment were closely intertwined. In ancient Rome, individuals didn't categorize themselves as we often do today, like homosexual, heterosexual, or bisexual. Instead, they focused more on who held dominance in a bond than who was involved. In a usual man-woman pairing, the male was perceived as the commanding one, the provider, while the female was the recipient. This wasn't solely about the bond itself, but also about displaying who wielded authority. When two males were engaged, matters grew more complex. One had to adopt the recipient role, which Romans saw as more womanly and yielding. That stance often bore a social mark for grown men, though not always, particularly if the younger partner was still youthful. A notable form of same-sex bond was termed pederasty. In this arrangement, an elder man, known as the eraseds, formed a tie with a teen boy called the araminos, but it wasn't only about love or closeness. These ties often involved guidance, teaching, and aid in advancing socially. Back then, large age gaps in these bonds weren't startling as they might be now, especially among the rich and mighty. For Rome's upper class, it was deemed atypical, part of a young man's path to maturity, granting him vital links and entry into politics and sway. Even among Rome's most influential men, emperors, commanders, and statesmen, it was wholly usual to have both male and female partners. What's astonishing is that this wasn't regarded as betrayal, at least not as we see it today. Since no birth control existed, and childbirth was highly risky for women when a man had affairs, especially with other men, it was occasionally seen as a method to spare his spouse from danger. Peculiar yet practical, ancient precaution in same-sex bonds. The person with greater authority, like an emperor, was typically expected to take the commanding, manly role, showcasing his might and control. But Roman society didn't always adhere to its own norms. Sometimes, even the mightiest men defied these expectations. Surprisingly, Julius Caesar, a renowned leader, was rumored to prefer being the more yielding partner in his same-sex bonds, which stunned many and left Romans chattering and baffled, as it clashed with the image of a powerful, commanding ruler. Emperor Hadrian stood apart from most Roman leaders. Though wed to a woman primarily for political gain, he appeared to lack true romantic interest in her. Many scholars believe they never shared intimacy. This stems from both Hadrian and his spouse having numerous partners, with Hadrian devoting most of his affection to men. One young man, a striking and clever teen named Antinos, captured his heart. Hadrian ensured Antinos gained top-notch learning, and they journeyed together across the realm. But their deep bond ended in sorrow. While in Egypt, Antinos mysteriously perished in the Nile. Devastated, Hadrian took grand measures to commemorate him. He founded a whole city near where Antinous died, naming it after him. and had his body preserved and returned to Rome. Hadrian even minted coins with Antinous' likeness and proclaimed him a deity, an extraordinarily rare act, and Antinous' worship spread across the empire. Hadrian wasn't the sole emperor with unique love tales. Emperor Nero also had romantic ties with men, but his actions shocked even Romans. Most emperors picked partners from palace servants and treated them as such. Nero, however, did something distinct. He held complete marriage rituals. In one instance, he wed a former servant named Pythagoras, but Nero took the bride's role, wearing a veil, while Pythagoras was the groom. This puzzled the public, as Nero, as emperor, was expected to assume the commanding, manly role. Later, Nero wed another young servant named Sporus. This time, to appease Romans, he took the manly role himself, showing how even emperors balanced personal wishes with public demands. Yet some of Emperor Nero's deeds would be profoundly troubling by today's norms. In one shocking case, to ensure the public viewed him as the commanding, manly figure in his bond with Sporus, Nero had the boy castrated, a cruel act done purely for image and dominance. Other tales depict Nero as harsh or abusive toward his partners, though it's hard to confirm what's true. The most shocking accusation about Emperor Nero is the ancient claim that he committed incest with his mother, Agrippina the Younger. This charge appears mainly in historian Suetonius's Lives of the Caesars, and more cautiously in Tacitus's Annals. Both hint Agrippina started the bond to retain control over Nero after he became emperor, while the incest claim is a notorious part of Nero's dark legend. Credible historians nearly universally see it as a vicious fabrication, a potent example of how Roman political foes used sexual slander, the ultimate taboo, to ruin reputations after death. But while Nero's behavior was extreme, another emperor, Tiberius, is recalled even more darkly, especially for how he treated young people around him. Tiberius is often cited as one of the worst offenders in abusing his authority over partners. He had a keen interest in much younger boys, and his treatment of them has led many scholars to label him one of Rome's most morally corrupt emperors. Much of this occurred away from public view. Tiberius spent his later years in lavish villas on Mediterranean islands, particularly Capri. He had boys brought there, officially as servants, but many accounts suggest they were also used to fulfill his desires. Some stories about Tiberius are likely exaggerated, as Roman historians often added shocking details to vilify their subjects. But even if only partly true, they paint a troubling picture of how unchecked power could be misused in the Roman Empire.